Hi guys, we're doing solving proportions tonight. Some vocabulary that we've got to know before we begin. Ratios. Or what the proportion is made of. They're a comparison of two things. In the example below, 1/2 and 8/16 are ratios, and they can also look like fractions. A proportion, which is what we're learning about today, is formed by two ratios that are equal. I hope your writing is better than mine. For example, 1/2 equals 8/16. This one's got a lot of blanks. Cross multiplying. Means to multiply the denominator of one ratio, or a fraction, by the, guess what? Numerator of the other ratio. This is one you should already know. Variable is a number represented by a letter, like X or Y, or actually you can use any letter at all. And when I say it's a number, it's actually the unknown number that's represented by a letter. So let's add the little word unknown up here. Uh-oh, what happened? It's me doing this, so you know to expect this goofy stuff. And how about if I misspelled unknown? Okay. Next. Here's another one that you might already know. This is a big word, and I think we've done it in here before, but I'm not sure. It starts with a C, and it is the word that represents the number. Why does it keep doing that? And it's coefficient. C-O-E. F-F-I-C-I-E-N-T. The coefficient is the number next to a variable. An example, 5y means 5 times y. Remember, we've talked about when a number and a letter are together with no sign that means multiplication. So the 5 is the coefficient, and you need to learn this word, and if we continue to use it, which we're going to, and you don't know what we're talking about, you need to ask Miss Smith or Miss Hitchcock or myself, because you have to know what that word coefficient means. We're going to be using it a lot in the future. And the y is the variable. So that means 5 times y. This next term is probably something brand new to you, and it's called isolate. Isolating the variable. Think about what isolate means. It means to get the X. It means to get by yourself. If you're isolated, sometimes your teacher might isolate you in the classroom if you're not behaving well. So to isolate the variable means to get the X by itself, so we can find out what X equals. Now we've got the boring stuff out of the way. Now for the fun of solving equations. Solving proportions. So we've got 3/4 equals 15 over x. The first step is to cross multiply And we're going to do, and I want you to draw an arrow here. And if you've got different colors, get different colors out. We're going to cross multiply 3 times x, and that gives us 3x. You put the 3 and the x together. Remember, that's the coefficient and the variable. Equals, now hold on just a second while I go down here and change my ink color to green. To green. So the next step is to cross multiply 4 times 15. Remember, I told you in the vocabulary part that cross multiplying means to multiply the numerator of one side times the denominator of the other side. So 15 times 4 equals 60. So right now we've got 3x equals 60. Let me change my color again, if I can get down here. So step 3 on solving this proportion is to divide both sides, where's my pen, by the coefficient. Which number is the coefficient? Say it out loud before I tell you. And what this does, when you divide both sides by the coefficient, this isolates the variable. And I'll show you what that means when we get to it. To show that you're dividing both sides by the coefficient, you're going to make it look like a fraction, because we've learned all year long that really a fraction is a division problem. So this means 3 divided by 3. Well, what is 3 divided by 3? It is 1. And we still have the x there. On equations, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do the exact same thing to the other equal sign, because it's like a seesaw. It has to stay balanced. So if we divide the left side by 3, we also divide the right side by 3. So 60 divided by 3 is 20. Now I put 1x here. You don't have to put that 1. When the coefficient is 1, you do not have to put it. So you could have just written x equals 20. I don't think any of us are going to count it wrong if you put a 1 there, but you don't have to do that. So what we end up with is we're going to come back up to the top where this x was, circle it, and put a 20 out beside it, because that's what we've said. We've said that this x is going to equal 20. We can cross multiply to check our answer. So everybody look. 4 times 15, we've already done that, and we found out when we cross multiplied that 4 times 15 is 60. Now we can do this. 3 times 20 is also 60. So since those cross products match, that means that we've gotten the right answer down here. So you can check your answers by doing the cross multiplication. Okay, now put me on pause and you try one. And look at the steps in the example I did with you. I'm going to assume that you really did do this before I'm showing you. Otherwise, you're not going to have much of a lesson on it. So our first step was to cross multiply. X times 24 is 24x. I'm not going to change the color. I hope you don't mind. And then our second step is to cross multiply the 8 and the 6. 8 times 6 is 48. Step 1, cross multiply with the x. Step 2, cross multiply the other two numbers. Step 3 is to divide both sides by, and what is that word that is the number in front of the variable? That's right, coefficient. We're going to divide both sides by the coefficient. And we're going to make it look like a fraction to show that. This is how you show your work, and this is how you have to show your work. So 24 divided by 24 is 1x, and 48 divided by 24. How many 24s are in 48? 2. So what we've said here, we've solved this proportion, and we're saying that x, go back up to the top where the x is, and put a 2 there. So what we're saying is that 2 over 8 equals 6 over 24. So let's cross multiply to check. Now I will change colors, if I can get down there to change. Let's use, no, let's not, oh well. Okay. So 6 times 8 is 48. 24 times 2 is 48. And since those two equal each other, that means that we did get this proportion correct. Sometimes, but not always, you can solve a proportion by finding the missing number in a fraction. So you know, I mean, we've been working on adding and subtracting fractions a lot, and we always have to find a common denominator, and then when you change the denominator, you also have to multiply by the same thing to find a new numerator. Well, that's kind of what this is. If we have to change 7/8 to be something over 40, these are kind of easy numbers that go together. So 8 times, 8 times 8 times what equals 40? That's right, 5. And 7, so we're going to do the same thing to the top number, to the numerator. So 7 times 5 equals 35. You can still do cross products to see if that's equal. Now we might, let's rewrite the problem out here. 7/8 equals 35/40. Ooh, that's ugly. Sometimes when you cross multiply, you can do it mentally, because you can probably do 7 times 4 is 28 and then add a 0 on the end. So that would be 280. But 35 times 8, sometimes when you're doing that cross multiplication or when you're dividing by the coefficient, you're going to have to write it out to do it, because it's not a mental math problem. 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4, and 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. So both of our cross products are equal, and that means that we did get the right answer when we did that. Any questions that you have, you need to write down so you can, on your, what do you call it? Class survey, so that you can be sure, so that your teachers can address that tomorrow, or you can ask it in class tomorrow. Fill out the survey and do the problems. They are part of your grade, so be careful. And then hit submit.